to review the 2016 AP Computer Science FRQ, the random string chooser class. And notice that in this example, I modified to be a non-inheritance. So we are not going to be dealing with inheritance for this problem. So make sure that you take the time to read through. You want to make sure that you are highlighting the text. So make sure that you interact with the text as you go through reading it once, twice. Once you read the second time, you want to be able to focus on what they're giving you in this section. So let's go through it. So in this question, you're going to implement a random string chooser class. And if you notice over here, this for Replit, we're not going to have the luxury of testing it on your AP exam. So you can just, we just need to code it. And you'll have to write it down. So you want to make sure that you have done the written exercise first, and then we can come back to this afterwards. So you're going to do an entire class, which means a constructor and maybe a method or two. So in this case, a random string chooser object is constructed, so that for your constructor, from an array of null. And this is a key thing, that your string is not going to be null. So it will have at least one string. When the object is first constructed, all the strings will be considered available. Then we have a method called getNext, which has had the following behavior. It's going to return a randomly chosen string. So therefore, we need to be able to have a return, and it's going to be a random string. Once a particular string has been returned, then that string is no longer available. If there are no more strings in the that need to be returned, if there are no strings that are available, then we're going to return none. So let's go through the code segment that they provide for you. So in this case, they are before they construct the object, they have a array of strings, and in this case, they have how many items? We have 0, 1, 2, 3, so you have 4. So that's the index. And when they construct it, they go into the argument is the array of strings. That's what you're going to receive as your parameter. And then they're going to notice that there are four words, 4 strings. And in this case, they are going to go through a for loop, and they're going to go through it 6 times. So once they select each one, in order that they cannot be repeated, because once one of them is returned, that one's no longer available. So then after the fourth one, there's none of them are available any longer. So we have none and then none. So let's go through the code. First, let's go and build our title for the class public. It's called a random string chooser. And because the name of the file is there, it can auto select it for us. Now let's just go and build our constructor, and then we can talk about any of the variables that we might need. And one of the things that we always forget is that you want to make sure that you take the time to read this second part. Let's do this so before we start. Write the entire random string chooser class. Your implementation must include an appropriate constructor and any necessary methods. Any instance variables must be private. And that's something that you should already be used to, is that we always want to be able to have your instance variables to be private. The code segment in this example above should indicate the behavior. Neither the constructor nor the method should alter the parameter pass of the constructor, but the implementation may copy, and that's what we're going to be doing, the contents of the array. But so it is essential that you read through this part, because some of the students they go through this segment, they can't think what they're going to do, but there's always key information that's hiding from you that will help you on your task. So let's do your constructor public. The constructors do not return anything, so we don't even need to type in void, and we don't need to type in static at all. So therefore, I'll be just random string chooser, and your parameter that you're taking in is an array of strings, so it'll be string, and we're gonna call it a list of words will be words. Now what we're going to do, we are going to copy those words, because what I'm thinking is that once we have to copy them into an array list, what's nice about an array list is that once we remove it, it's gone. And once you remove, we can remove specific ones, and now we have an array list of only 2 items. And once we move another one, we have an array list of only 1 item. And once we move the last one, we have an array list of empty array list. With an array, we can replace them, but in this case, it says that the constructor should alter the parameter. Neither the constructor or any of the methods should be able to alter the array that is being passed. So therefore, let's go through and build a array list. So I need to place a private variable. It'll be an array list of strings, and we're going to name it words. Now, because I'm working with an array list, I need to make sure that I import and now I declared it on line number 7, and now I'm going to, so I declare, so now I need to initialize it. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to be able to copy the words in here. So therefore, I'm going to go through and say, I'm going to do a for loop. And that'll be I is less than, how big is your array list? Well, I actually need to initialize it first. All right, we talked about initializing it here. So it'll be words available. And that's something that you want to get used to. Many times they're going to give you this line here with the declare, but we need to be able to initialize it with the constructor. New array list. And it's going to be a string. And we don't not going to include the size. It's going to grow as we add more items. So now we can actually copy the words from your array into your array list. And therefore, we're going to be from 0 to the size of the length of your array. So it'll be words dot length. And remember, whenever it's an array, it's a variable, so it's not a method in I++. And now what we're going to do, we're just going to add words available dot add, and we're going to add the words from your array. So now we have a array list with exactly the same words as this. So we can go through the loop. However many words are in here, we're going to go through and add one by one. And that'll be our constructor. And now let's go and work on the get next method. On the get next method, we basically just need to be able to return a string. So it will be public. It's a non-static because we have to create an instance of the object or the class or an object. Get next. And we already need to return a string, correct? And notice that in this case, it's not taking any parameters. And now you can always look on the call to kind of get a hint if you're not too sure. And now what we need to do, we need to be able to create an integer, a random integer. And we call us we'll say the index that we're going to be removing or calling and returning. So it'll be it's going to be an integer, then it'll be math random. And we are going to call it, we're going to create the random number depending on the number of items that we have on an array list. Now remember that we are dealing with an array list. So if we call on, right now we have from 0 to 3, so we have 4 items. But then if we return one of them, let's say we return, in this case, the return bus first. Now we only have 3 items. And if we return the, we only have 2 items. We return on, in this case, wheels, we only have 1. So therefore, what we're going to do instead, we need to be able to place the size of the array list. So the name of the array list is words available dot size, and it's a method. And now what we need to do, we need to be able to save the item and then remove it, then return it. So that this has to be a little tricky because you don't want to be able to just remove it, and you can actually do 2 things at once, but I'm going to do it in 2 different steps. I'm going to take, and I'll change to 1 afterwards. So I'm going to save the string that I'm going to remove. So string equal to temp equal to the words available and get index. Then I'm going to remove it. So I'm going to say words available that remove index, and then I'm going to return the temp word. Now we can actually do this in one step. So, but I'll come back at the very end before switching it back. So the only problem that I have right now is that now if I have nothing left, I should be able to return none. So we are going to take care of that at the very beginning. We're going to say if the size of the array is 0, then we are going to return none. And that should do it. So let's run and see if I have any errors. Did I leave anything out? Oh, I did. Goodness. Let's see. Let's see. So where did I go wrong in here? Choose most of the time whenever you select that there's no class. That's probably because we forgot to type in class. Then let's run it again. Private, there's no equal sign. This is just the name of the class. So we are basically just declaring it in one more, let's say, index. We forgot. But errors you saw me do. So therefore, pass on wheel, the words do not get repeated, so it's fine. And then I run it a few times, they don't get repeated. And that looks good. So now let's go ahead and submit it. And that will do. So that will be the solution for the 2016 random string chooser FRQ. Have a good day and I'll see you guys next time.